Hello, hello, hello. 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 Hi. Got a haircut today. Ta-da. It's all short again. Um, it emphasizes the thin spot. Um, well, I promised I'd be back next week, and it's next week. And I promised that I wouldn't be on over the weekend because I would be working on employment stuff, and that didn't work out so hot. I curled up into a horrible stress ball. So here we are. Today, I have for you this piece of fish. We have some red snapper fillet. Uh, just under $4 for this one. Unusually, it was in the discount bin, so you can see the discount sticker up here, but it wasn't short dated. It's actually got a couple days on it yet. So we're working with just fresh fish that's being clearanced for some reason. I don't know. Good for me. Good find for me. Fish obviously doesn't take very long. Snapper is a crackle behind me. What was that? I just cleaned the stove, like washed it after our debacle with the sugar liquid with the overflowing juice on Friday, and I don't know that I got the top all put back together. So I guess we'll find out when I get that far. What was I saying? Snapper is a light white fish, so we don't want to go too crazy with it. It cooks really fast too. Um, so to that end, the meal I have planned, I think, is going to take about 10 minutes. So we're going to stretch things out. Here was another. What did that sound? It's like the. No, it's all stable. It's like the top is settling. Um, as I walk around. Asparagus. Asparagus of the quality. Now it says from California. So I don't know what the seasons are like down there, but normally in Wisconsin we cannot get asparagus like this until our own spring comes around. We get those little skinny greenhouse things that I don't like at all. I think winter asparagus is usually quite bad. These are nice, big, thick asparaguses. They don't have a lot of gnarly white bit at the bottom. If you look at them, only one of them has been bundled in the middle and after being cut short, so they aren't even cheating. They often do that. You'll see the short ones all bundled in the middle. They sort of cheat you. Um, Not that you're losing a lot of asparagus anyways. They're also really cheap. This bundle was like $1.60, $1.70, something like that. Really crazy. So we're gonna have asparagus with my fish. Asparagus also doesn't take very long. So number three, I want a starch and I want a sauce. And the sauce, we are in the middle of, well, actually we're on the tail end now of citrus season. I have an embarrassingly dried up orange that I used for zesting on something else. We're going to cut into it and see what it looks like. It might get thrown away. Um, I have a fresh blood orange. That's going to be our main event. And I have a standard navel orange in the event that that fresh blood orange needs a little bit of help. We're going to make an orange sauce. I want to make a blood orange sauce. Um, I was looking up, I've got one pulled up right now, an orange beurre blanc. I've never made a beurre blanc. It sounds very decadent. Maybe I should dial it back a little bit. I don't know. I have all the ingredients on hand. I could do it. It's a lot of butter. It's a lot of butter. Um, and then a risotto, I think, is going to take up the most of our the bulk of our time and give us a starch on the plate. Um, think about the flavors for a risotto too. You usually use a stock or a broth to cook it. And I don't have anything on tap for that, so we can use an instant or we can get creative with something. Both of which are viable options. And considering we're going to have asparagus and citrus and a light white fish, I feel like a risotto should be, and we also could do pasta risotto, which is a fun trick I like to do, and it's actually easier to cook. But if we're gonna have a red citrus sauce, a white fish, a green asparagus, we can combine. Okay, trying to think of flavors for our risotto. What do I have on hand? Peas. We don't need peas. Cream of chicken. Beans, tomato paste. We have tomato bouillon, beef bouillon, chicken bouillon. We have some dashi. We could make a light fish flavored. We could make a light fish flavored risotto to go with our fish. The fish isn't going to be terribly savory, so the risotto should actually be on the savory side to provide that element to our plate. Pull stuff out. We're doing a little brainstorm. Let's pull out the countertop. There's the fish. There's the asparagus. There's the big empty blank space. So we have, as options, chicken and tomato bouillon. Now that'll make for a pretty red result. And I might not want that for my color. We have, same brand actually, pork bouillon, which I don't see very often in the standard American grocery stores, but they're very available in the Vietnamese grocery stores around here, and in the Mexican grocery stores that are also around here. So it's strange that they're not in the American ones, because it seems like pork stock in general seems like it should be a standard thing, but it's really unavailable in the standard lineup. We have a fish stock concentrate that I got on sale, chicken stock concentrate, beef bouillon cubes, beef granules, chicken bouillon cubes, a little bit of dashi. We can also make our own. Ooh, I know. Ooh, I know. You'll remember I used up all of my miso. Why does that keep? Every time I step in the middle of the room, the stove makes a sound. Is it this? The drying sheet pan I had in there? Could be. Put that away. Put that in there to dry because it was too big for my drying area. What if we made miso? I'm gonna put all these stocks back. What if we made miso risotto? Like a miso soup, but cooked into a risotto. So we get that. Get the dashi out. Because then we get savory. We get the lovely miso flavor. Something weird going on the floor. When I step in the middle Or maybe it's me. I don't know. Confusing. If I periodically stop and feel like I'm losing my mind. So we need then to make a miso soup base. How much of this stuff is left? Not a ton. Not a ton. I can mince up some green onion. Yeah, I guess we're going to make a miso soup risotto. And I'm going to use rice in that case. We need a double pot system. We'll start it on the front pot though. Transfer the broth back once we've got it formed. I need to know exactly how much of the dashi I have. So we're killing the dashi. We have a half of a tablespoon. How much liquid does that take? Weirdly, the jar doesn't tell me, so I have to look it up. Two cups. So according to that, this is half of a cup. 2 cups of water and two teaspoons. Oh, 2 teaspoons. No. So we have 1.5 cups. No, we have 1.5. That's still not a ton. 1.5 cups. I guess I'm just gonna overshoot. We're gonna cook it out a little bit anyways, because that's what you do with risotto. So we're gonna put in 2.5 cups of water. Do I even need a pan that big? We'll use the smaller pan. Pop over here. Put that pan away. That guy there. Because for a risotto, you typically want a 5-to-1 ratio. So that's 2.5 cups of water, to which we'll add half a cup of rice. But we got to get our flavors together first. So throw our dashi granules in. It's a little bit under concentrated. So to make up for that, I don't want to throw in my last piece of kombu. Do I want to throw mushrooms in this? I want to throw something else in there to make up for the slight loss of flavor, and simmer it in there with them. Dried and I wish I hadn't buried those dried anchovies. Where did I put those? Okay, we're gonna dig in the freezer for a sec here while I find this. Everything's collapsing now. I disturbed the natural order of the freezer. Stay. Okay. These are frozen dried anchovies, which I will add a pinch of to our water to amp up our dashi a little bit. And now we need to simmer this, and then we're going to skim those guys out because they won't be very tasty long run. Well, that's getting started. Miso soup. Cheese with dropped sugar. So this allows for a little bit more water in their version, using dashi granules actually. 3 tablespoons of this miso. Which is our brand new one because I just used up the last one. Miso is hard to measure in tablespoons on account of it being a thick paste. We used that gochujang bean paste last time as a substitute for miso, and it's just not as good for the things that miso is good for. It's just a different thing. So I'm glad we have real miso back. Since this is hard to measure in a specific way, we're just going to grab a tablespoon and eyeball it. And I think 2 of those is probably plenty. Yeah, miso is so good. This is going to be a delicious, delicious thing. Just on the back of miso being so freaking delicious. We'll keep that handy. It's going to go into our broth in a little bit. We need the board out. Because I don't have chives that I'm willing to cut right now. So I'm going to mince up a green onion instead. And that will be added in. I think we'll add it in to the. No, we won't add it in the broth. We'll just add it into the rice when we get that far. But I want some little pieces. so that it really incorporates. We don't want big chunks floating around. We want little flakes that really kind of get a little bit of it in each bite. Oh, switch my panels over here for a sec. So, I already told you my weekend was just a continuation of the stress bomb from last week. Then I got a haircut. What are you guys doing for the weekend? Anything fun? Anything nice? We're having crazy weather around here. Crazy in a it's so hot the earth is dying kind of way. Not crazy in a harsh weather kind of way. Uh, okay. I think that's gonna be our, let's see, green onion, miso. What else goes into a risotto? Butter, white wine, white pepper. Actually, I have some white pepper. We can pull that out. I hardly ever use it. It got shuffled to the front. I don't think I want to use white wine, though. I think I want to use sake for this. We have scallion that's going to be added a bit later. So do I want to still saute off shallot? I think I do still want to saute off some shallot. I have a big shallot. I want to use some shallot for my sauce, so I'm going to split this shallot up. We're going to use part of it for the risotto and part of it for the sauce. Get the papers off of here. And get a scrap bowl ready since I'm now generating some vegetable scraps. Hi! Lurkers are always appreciated, but welcome in. Because shallots naturally are split into two in the middle, like that. So we can use half of it here and half of it there, well, approximately half, very easily. They're not exactly the same size, but they're close enough. And we're going to use the small one because there's going to be another oniony element in this. Or I could just mince the whole thing and split it up half and half that way. Both halves are going to be cut the same way. That is to say, crudely small diced. Crudely small diced. We have an ad coming up in just a few minutes. Warning. Be forewarned. Close enough. Close enough. Let's just get out 2 little bowls and evenly divide this stuff. I get such big shallots that I kind of have to do this with them because I get so much shallot out of them. As well, I could split them, use just half of one of the cloves. But once you've cracked into them, they don't keep nearly as long. And I don't use shallot hardly as often as just plain old onion. So they kind of sit around. So one of those gets set aside because we make sauce out of it. One of those is going into our risotto. Our risotto, based on Dune 2. Oops. I also want to see that. Not sure when I'll find time. Perhaps tomorrow? No, tomorrow's in the wrong. Has to be next week. Right? It comes out on the calendar. Comes out on the 2nd, on Saturday? Or is it the 1st? So it comes out this week. So next week, I'll probably try to get the discount Tuesday package for it. If I can. Yeah, I really liked the first Dune. Let's see. Half a cup of our rice. You guys watched a pot simmering away. Half a cup of sushi rice. We're using sushi rice because sushi rice is more accessible than arborio, which is the classic rice for risotto, and I think gives you just as good a result. We're going to move that off of there. And actually, that's the pan. That's the pan I wanted to use. We'll use the big one. We'll just use the larger pan. I have 2 very similar pans of slightly different sizes. This guy, temperature down. We are going to use butter to get us started. There's our ad. There's our ad. Pop over here. That guy wants just a little bit of heat, and that guy wants just a little bit of heat. That one needs to melt the butter, and then we're going to saute a few things very gently, and we're going to sweat out some shallots. We're going to add a few spices to it. That just needs to be kept warm, and I think I want to add just a smidge more water to it. I need to get those fish out of there too, and then we need to dissolve the miso into it. So, you know, gonna get a third. Can I get a third pan dirty? No, we're not. I'm not gonna get a third pan dirty. I should have used a different pan, but now that I've committed to doing it like this, we're gonna do it like this. Now we have to watch a risotto a bit. You don't have to be as hawkish about it as the traditional sit and stir and add and sit and stir and add little bits at a time. But you do have to pay attention to it. You can't just completely walk away. Although you can, because that is how it's made in like. That was how it was made in like Italian peasant way. They just take the water and the rice and you cook it together. No fussy heat controls, no doling out little tiny bits of the broth. Because they don't got time for that. They're Italian peasants. And risotto is a very accessible, cheap dish. Because it's broth. At its very base, it's broth and rice. So, I tell you, last time when we had an overflow back here and it was sugary and it burned into the burner, I forgot about that and I turned that burner on and the entire room filled with smoke. So I took all 4 burners off, took the plates out from underneath them and washed everything. Which, let me tell you, they're not in as bad a shape as they look. They are rusty on the top surface, but they aren't rusting through. So I don't think I need to replace them. I just needed to give them a good hard scrub. That's good. We're not using thyme. I think we're using. I think we're cheating. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt to help our shallot sweat out a little bit. We don't want to go too much though because the broth is a bit salty. Although less salty than if we had used one of those concentrate cubes. Or one of those concentrate pastes. Although the miso is going to be rather salty as well. So we do have to be cognizant we don't make this too salty. So that's probably the last time I'll add salt to it. I need to get a butter out of the freezer. I'm going to need more butter for the sauce. And I did not consider that. Until just now. So a beurre blanc is a butter sauce. It's butter and white wine cooked together into a sauce. Tablespoon butter, add the shallots, cook briefly, add the vinegar and the wine. We're adding orange juice instead. Cook out the liquid, add the cream. This one has cream in it. The other one is just butter. With vinegar. Shallots, white wine, vinegar. We can swap out the vinegar for our orange juice. We can try white wine. We can do white wine, heavy cream, and then 8 tablespoons of butter. It's a lot of butter. That's a lot of butter. I think that shallot is looking good enough. Again, I'm not being incredibly fussy about this. Throw in your rice, and we're going to let the rice get to know the butter and the shallots. Maybe get a little bit toasty around the edges before we start adding our liquid. Help those starches wake up so that when we do add the liquid, it expresses the starches from the grains out into it, and we get that lovely, creamy consistency for which there's no cream. There's going to be butter, of course, but there's no milk or cream added to a risotto. I'm using the non-sharp side of the knife to do this. Because the little shallot bits really like to stick to these silicone spatulas. And then we're going to be very careful and not dump those little fishies in here, because I don't want those little fishies to be in here. Those little fishies are going in the trash. They have served their purpose. And we're not putting the scallion in just yet because I want the scallion to be a fresh mix-in right at the end, if possible, as close to the end as we can get. Risotto gets kind of thick, so it can be hard to mix something in right at the end, but like with the last dollop of liquid, which I might not be doing dollops of liquid. And we're doing this first because the risotto can be kept warm in the back corner once it's done very easily. So rather than try to stress myself out and do everything at once and try to get everything hitting the plate at the same time, we are doing it this way. Gonna knock the heat up just a smidge on this one, on the rice burner. Gonna get my sake back out of the fridge. I don't know why I put it in there. I was just tidying up the workspace. I automatically put the bottle in the fridge, even though that's not where it lives. It lives in the other fridge. The fridge is not plugged in, just as a storage cabinet. So sake, y'all know what sake is. It's rice wine. It has a dry sweetness to it, which is strange. It has a sweetness to it, but not a fruitiness like you get out of wines, like fruit wines. So I'm not sure what it's going to do here. It tends to be on the dry side. We're going to add a quarter cup and we're going to cook it out. We don't want the alcohol sticking around for the end. This would be deglazing the pan if we weren't using a non-stick pan. We are contributing some flavor at this stage. I'm also going to throw the miso in quite late because the miso, like the way you make a miso soup is you cook the broth, take it off the heat, and stir the miso in so that the heat doesn't boil away this sort of the more delicate parts of the miso flavor. You don't just boil the crap out of your miso. So we're not going to add the miso until quite late as well for the same reason. I want the miso flavor to be maintained in our risotto. I'm quite interested how this is going to turn out. I was not planning for this. I was just looking at what I had, and lo and behold, it's this. Black Keeper, howdy, welcome in. I do sometimes forget the photos. Hi, welcome, welcome. Alana was just talking about photos earlier, and I was just razzing Black Keeper in Alana's chat earlier. How's it going? Welcome in. We're making a thing. We're making a thing. We're making a straight up experiment. Okay, this temperature does need to come down, and that one actually should just go straight off. So I'm gonna run this through the strainer because I don't want the little fishies to get in there. It's bowing and you're tired. Nice. So we don't want this to vigorously boil. We want this to gently simmer and gradually wake up the starches in the rice and gradually get absorbed and thicken away because we don't want it to just boil off. We're looking for it to all get absorbed into the rice and thicken. I knew what you meant. I was just giving you a hard time. Well, if you're on the night shift, that means it's night. So you're in Europe. Or possibly Africa. Unless it's the middle of the night, then maybe further east. Time zones are so weird. What are we making? What we are making is, here, let me pop over. That needs to sit and absorb a little bit. So what we're actually making over there is a risotto. I'll talk about that in a sec, because I want to talk about the rest of it. We're making the thing that takes the longest first. We have a discounted to just $3.70 tail cut of red snapper. That is, strangely enough, for being a discount thing that I got out of the bargain, not short dated. So it's going to be a nice piece of fish. This does not take very long to cook, and I'm not going to do very much to it. I think we're going with salt, pepper, and a hot pan and some butter. There's going to be a lot of butter today. Also found, and this blew my mind for February, some really nice looking asparagus. The tag says it comes from California, but even that, I don't see asparagus this nice in the winter at all. You get those little skinny greenhouse asparaguses. These are nice, big, chunky, thick asparaguses. And it was cheap, too. This was under $2 for this bundle. So we're going to have that. Asparagus also doesn't take very long. So I wanted a starch to go with those. So we are over here making a starch. What I've essentially done back here is not even essentially. What I've literally done back here is I've used some instant dashi granules and sort of zhuzhed them up with some dried anchovies to sort of amp it up a little bit. And that is the broth we are using to make a risotto, for which I'm using sushi rice. And then we're going to add to that, right at the end, when we're got the last dollop of liquid goes in, some miso and some finely sliced scallions, as you would into a miso soup. So we're making a miso soup risotto. over here, which came to me because I was just looking at what flavors I could throw into my risotto, and I saw the dashi granules, and I just picked up a brand new thing of miso. So that's the plan here. That's what we're doing over here. And I think the time it took me to give you that tour is just enough to add another dose of our broth. So in the pot is sushi rice, half a shallot, some butter, some sake that we boiled all the liquid off of. We boiled all the liquid off of it. Used that in lieu of the white wine that would normally go into a risotto. I'm very, very curious how this is going to taste when it comes out the other end, because miso soup is a very delicate flavor. Risottos often end up kind of intense because you're concentrating a stock into the rice. So we'll see. And then the fourth element, I am making a sauce. I'm making a. We haven't started it yet. I'm doing this part first, because this can be set aside and kept warm until plating. So then I don't have to think about doing multiple things at once. Risotto takes up 2 burners because you got to keep your broth handy to put in your thing. So we're doing this first, and then I can set this aside somewhere to keep warm. I was looking up citrus sauces. I've got some oranges. This one's a blood orange. This one is going to be hopefully our lead and give us some nice color. This one I used for zesting, and I forgot about it, so it's all dried up. So we're going to cut into it and see if there's anything salvageable in the middle. If not, whatever. I'm going to try to make a orange sauce for our fish. I can talk about our asparagus too. First of all, the asparagus is fresh. The way you test if asparagus is fresh is you look at the damn asparagus. So the plan is to make an orange sauce for our fish. We can talk about the asparagus, though. Here's the asparagus with its rubber bands still intact. So when asparagus is not fresh, the stalks get wrinkly. This guy isn't looking so hot, and that was the one that was sort of hidden in the middle. The old wives' tale is that you take the asparagus like this and you bend it, and wherever it snaps, that's where you let it snap. That's wrong. This part is wrong. Don't hold it way up here by the top. Hold it like in the middle. You can still snap it. And then that bottom part should be a little tough. Now, it's not always. I bet you I could just... Yeah, that part's fine. And that's the issue. You end up snapping off some good asparagus doing that. Really, it's the color gradient. These guys are all green pretty far down. So I'm just going to take the dried up bottoms off of everybody. And that's going to be it. I grew up with a fresh asparagus patch. And although I rent now, so I don't have a place to put an asparagus patch, someday I have a plot of my own. I'm going to put one in. Love this stuff. And once you've got it established, it's super easy to grow. I didn't need to prep all of those. I don't know why I did. I was just not paying attention. We're not going to eat all of this asparagus. Yeah, a nice little like snap. Fresh asparagus gives you that nice little snap as well. I guess I'll just pick out the nicest ones. Because I wasn't going to do all of this. You don't need all of this I'm not serving an army. We're going to serve just that part. Bind up the rest. So yeah, if you've got a part of the asparagus that's obviously very white, that part was underground, and unless it's white asparagus where the whole thing is white, that part's going to be where it's very tough and fibrous. Otherwise, just take off, snap it, because if it is really tough, it won't snap right in the middle of that tough part, and it'll snap a little bit higher. But hold it like down at the bottom to do that. Don't hold it. I see people holding them like this and snapping, and then it breaks like here. And then of course it breaks like here, because that's the middle. Hold it way down at the bottom and just do it like that. Otherwise you're wasting a bunch of your delicious asparagus. Our risotto. Yeah, and asparagus, if you've got a plot of land to plant it on, it takes a couple of years to get established, but once it's in, it basically takes care of itself. You have to weed it and pretty much nothing else. It's good stuff. It's a good vegetable to have because you can just snap it off on the ground and eat it. I love it. It is maybe a little bit of divisive taste-wise, and of course it famously makes your pee smell. Although I hear not everyone can smell that. I actually personally know someone who was surprised to hear that it makes your pee smell because they never encountered that because they can't smell it. It's like the cilantro thing. There are some people who just can't detect that chemical. It's strange. So there's just a little bit of liquid left in our pot back there, and that's going to be our last dose. And when that dose goes in, we're going to throw in our miso and our scallion. We're not putting cheese in this because I think it is such nice asparagus. It's so weird. I've never seen this nice of asparagus. It's nice and fresh too. It's not in the middle of winter. Although this has been a bizarre winter, so who knows where it's come from. I mean, I know where it's come from. It says it comes from Southern California, so, but weird. And so cheap too. Just very, very impressed all around with the asparagus. This is coming along. So with our last dose of liquid, we're going to throw in the miso and the scallions. We're not adding cheese. I could add tofu, but I don't think I need it. If this works out, I'll have to write it down. I think we could do this with tofu and make it a like full-on miso soup risotto with all the various parts. So cubed tofu. Yeah, look, you can add like chunky mix-ins into a risotto. Just add them at the end, at the very last step, because otherwise they'll get overcooked. There's a recipe, and I actually made it kinda from the anime Food Wars, manga/anime Food Wars, for an apple risotto, and it has crisp apple chunks in it. It's made with apple juice broth as the liquid, and then you add some diced apple in right at the end so the apple stays crisp. Otherwise, the apple will just turn to mush. I mean, not everyone likes tofu. I think a lot of people have been exposed to tofu that has been prepared badly. Because tofu itself is just kind of a blank slate. You can do anything to it, which means you can make it bad. But if you added tofu to this, it would be a more complete meal because the tofu would add a protein to it. We're not doing that this time. Fish is going to be my protein on the plate. I like tofu, but then I've also had bad tofu that I didn't like, so I completely understand that that's totally possible. So we're just slowly assembling this, and I'm gonna have to give it a taste for doneness. Because you don't want these grains to come out crunchy. They're a little stiff, but that's fine. We have more cooking to do. I just think they're right on track. Ooh. Ooh. It has a very light, oceany. Not that light. It starts out light and it kind of builds on you a little bit. Oceany flavor, which is interesting. Not something I encounter in risotto very much. I think typically I go for a mushroom base for my risottos, and then I mix some diced mushrooms into the rice. Oh sure, yeah. That show slash manga has for the first most of it, they had a professional chef on staff who wrote the recipes for the show, actually made them so they work. So they are recipes you can follow and make. Some of them are very difficult. There's a lot of like TV time that happens where they kind of gloss over the fact that this recipe would take 12 hours or some nonsense. But they're like doable things. That's super cool. And then right at the end, their chef got sick and had to back out of the show and never came back. And they did the last story arc with no chef. So those recipes are all weird nonsense. Still entertaining, but you lose the like aspect of this being real. Okay. I'm going to taste one of these, see what they are like now. They don't taste like much. They taste like fish, like very generic fish. Not great. I can see why they're not recommended for eating. That was our last dose of liquid. So, in goes our miso. Which we will make sure is nice and incorporated before we lose our liquid into the rice. We don't want lumps of miso. We want a nice, even coating. The miso should also thicken up a little bit because it's not watery. It's got protein in it from the soybeans that it is mostly made of, and that will help our liquid thicken up a little bit as well. Since we're not putting any cheese in there, which normally you do put cheese in there. Yeah, doing a mise en place, I need to hold myself to the fire in terms of doing a proper mise en place for certain things. Often you'll see me here on the old show where I'll do something and be like, I'll jump over here real fast to prep something else that I definitely should have prepped in advance, and then half the time something will have overcooked or burned back on the stove in the process. We've had a few things where I've kind of obviously burned something and then kind of glossed over that fact. Threw our scallions in there while it's still nice and liquidy so I can get them incorporated. We could slice just a little bit more off of the end of one of those guys for a topping. But I like having the bits sort of incorporated. It looks really good. Doesn't it look just like a miso soup, except like slightly too thick? Neat. I just think it's neat. And now we're going to simmer that until it's nice and thick. And maybe add a little bit more water if we need the rice. No, the rice is fine. The rice is fine if you were going for rice. It's actually a little under if you're going for risotto. We want it to fall apart a little bit more. So I might add just a smidge more water. Just a smidge more water just to give it a tiny bit more to chew on before we I'll tell you what though, it's pretty good. It reminds me of I'm sure it reminds me of congee, and I bet you that's what it is. Except not quite. But we want it to thicken it. We don't want it to serve as a porridge. We want it to thicken up the way a risotto does. So we're going to cook it until it thickens up to the point where you could scoop it onto a plate and it'll form a mound and not have to be stored in a bowl. So that's going to be that's I think where we're going to set ourselves apart from making a congee. The flavor, I don't normally talk about flavor in advance of things. The flavor is so nice. The flavor is so nice. If you ever want to make a risotto at home and you don't want to take the time to add little doses of liquid and gently simmer it away, don't. Pour all of your liquid in with your rice right away and then just gently keep it on low heat until it soaks up all the liquid and stir it every once in a while. It doesn't have to be the super perfect chef quality Michelin starred method where they add just a tablespoon of broth over the course of an hour. You don't have to. You can. Risotto is very accessible if you just let it be. Don't fuss about it. We're going to get rid of these little fishies because we don't need them anymore and they're taking up space. And they don't taste like much because they've been extracted into our liquid. But this has come out mighty tasty. And I'm going to, since I don't want any more liquid in there, we're going to put you on the back burner on keep warm with the lid. And it should finish absorbing the rest of that liquid by the time we get to it. And we'll just keep it on real low so it doesn't boil away. And that should be all that needs. And we can move on to another stage of life. Ooh, I forgot the pepper. We are adding a dash of white pepper. Get that nice and stirred in. It's not excessively salty. I will also point that out. I think we managed to avoid making this excessively salty, which is a huge risk with something like this. Since I did salt our shallot at the start to help it sweat. Okay. Move him back there, put his lid back on. Lick my spatula real quick. Okay. Okay. Orange butter sauce, aka orange beurre blanc. Step 1. Is literally the same as the step 1 from the risotto. Now we're diving into French cookery, and French cookery has given me agita in the past. But we start the same way. Pan, a bit under medium, with some butter. Get it melty. I'm going to call an audible already, and I'm going to give us one clove of garlic for this. I'm already violating our beurre blanc. It is going to be a beurre not blanc. Different color. I don't speak French. Ugh. Okay, 2 cloves because they were combined with each other and they are trying to sprout. So we'll just cut the sprouty bit off. We're using our new little garlic pot. This one. The one for storing the garlics, as opposed to the other one, which is for cooking the garlics. So far, it contains garlic adequately. These guys are trying to sprout on me, so we are going to cut the sprouts away. De-paper our dealies. And I don't feel like using the masher today, so we're just going to do the old-fashioned crush them up. Talk about knives for a sec, since I just got this knife out and I'm using a knife. For one thing, you'll notice I switched from the little paring knife into the big chef's knife for cutting up, of all things, garlic. Very small thing. It's just much easier to handle something small like this with a big knife than to try to work around my fingertips with the little tiny knife. I can just kind of mash this guy right through the garlic very easily. But also, I was doing some research. I don't know if any of you were here when I was talking about it, but we have a Costco recently opened up, and I took a tour. I toured it just to see what's what. It lets you walk in without a membership. You just can't buy anything. They were selling knives there, and I was interested and suspicious. Cutco brand knives. Yes, I'm calling out the brand name. Let's get over here. Our butter is melty. So we'll add our garlic. Saute until fragrant, which just takes a few seconds. I was suspicious because the knives looked very extremely shiny, like chromed, and they were also very expensive. And those two things I don't ever think go together. Because a knife, it's shiny, but it's like medium shiny. It's not the high gloss chrome like this. This is chromed because it's plated. You don't want a plated knife because the plating will wear off. This is a little pair of like olive tongs. So I went and learned about these knives. Shallots go in. And what I learned is that they are a decent quality knife made in a very cheap manner. They are a fairly mediocre metal, but they're stamped. And what you miss out, and that's what they didn't talk about that. The salesperson did not talk about the fact that they are stamped. This is too hot. And it needs a little bit of salt. Now, if all you're looking for is a cheap knife, stamped knives are fine. These knives were not cheap, and that was the thing. They were being sold as though they were these expensive luxury knives, and they were made in probably the cheapest way possible, which is stamping. I did not mise my place my mises for this thing I am cooking right now. I got distracted. We were supposed to open up some oranges. We're going to start with this dried up one because I have to know what it looks like on the inside. Ooh, it's bleeding, which means there's juice. It looks like just the skin is dried up. We can still juice this one. So we'll do that. We're going to take the heat off of our shallots and garlic so I don't burn that because I forgot, and we're now juicing an orange. I'm surprised. He was real crusty on the outside. You can see how hard that was for me to get into with the knife. But once you get through there, He's still red on the inside, red and juicy. So we're going to carefully juice out our blood orange here. So there you go. You learned something. Don't write off your oranges just because they are a little bit dry on the outside. What was I saying about the knives? Oh, the knives. So what you miss out is if you've ever looked at your knife this way, it's fat on this end and it narrows out toward the tip. It's because it's thickened up here for where you grip it and to provide balance with the handle. If your knife blade doesn't have that, the center of gravity of the blade pushes toward the tip. So then you either have to have a bigger handle or your knife is unbalanced. And I got to handle the Cutco knives, and guess which option they went with? They went with their knives are unbalanced, which isn't great. That's not what you want to see. So that's why I'm calling them out. Well, that worked great. So we're just going to cut the other one, which is not... Ooh, look at that guy. Look at the color. I love a blood orange. This one's almost purple, almost black on the inside. It's like wine. The juice is like the color of red wine coming out of this guy. God, blood oranges are so cool. These blood oranges, I was surprised, were the same price as the standard oranges, just seasonally. I was going to zest these guys too. Too late now. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of rotating the citrus reamer here through the entire interior of the orange to crush all the little juice vesicles to get all the juice out of it. But this is what I get for not missing my plasses earlier. I end up doing it late and forgetting to zest my orange. It is a beautiful color. And it is a little bit of a stain on the old hands. I can smell our miso soup risotto, and it's also making a sound, which means we probably need to open it up and take a look to make sure I haven't burned anything. And I haven't, but it is boiling a little bit more vigorously than I expected and thickening quite a bit. We'll let that continue, but we're going to turn it down slightly. It is a bloody blood orange, yes. I guess we'll zest the other orange since I'm not using it for juice now. And I forgot to zest the blood orange before I squeezed it. And zesting it after you've squeezed it is basically impossible. Nice, though. We got a good amount of juice out of it. We didn't need a ton, so that's fine. My beurre blanc is definitely not going to be blanc. My beurre blanc is going to be more of a beurre, whatever the French word for red is. And to that end, we probably should use a red wine instead of a white, just to really lean in on the red color. I'm gonna clean up these little red specks now before they all dry in place, because they're much easier to clean when they are still wet. Oop, I got some over by the computer here. That's not great. Sure. Rouge sounds right. That sounds French. We're going to rinse the fish out of my strainer. Should have done this directly into the strainer as well. We have about a half a cup from 2 oranges. That's a good amount. Those weren't huge oranges. Tastes like oranges. But I want to strain out the bits. So we're going to have less once the bits are out, because I just want the juice. Okay. Okay, with the bits removed, we have 1 tick shy of a half cup. So what are those? Eighths? A 3/8 cup? Fun. Now, where's my mouse cursor? There you are. Beurre blanc. Add the vinegar in the wine. We're going to add the blood orange and some red wine instead of vinegar. We could add a dash of red vinegar. Join me. Well, you're already over here. Continue being over here with me. We're going to take the heat back on. We're going to add our blood orange. We're going to add our red wine. We don't need much. We need less than we need of the fruit juice. So 2 tablespoons of that. That's a Pinot Noir, because that's the red wine I have on hand. I guess we are repurposing. I'll lick it off. No, we're getting a fresh spatula. I like the other spatula, but we're getting a fresh spatula. A red spatula, so that when I put it into this red liquid, it does not have visible stains. Okay. So that is 3/8 of a cup of blood orange juice. Right? 1/4, yeah. 2 tablespoons of red wine, and I am going to give it just a little bit of red wine vinegar, since Beurre Blanc wants a vinegar as well. And this won't spoil our color. It's going to be a not quite full tablespoon of that. And we need to simmer away the liquid. Which the liquids were cold, so it's going to take a sec. It needs some orange zest as well. And I can add orange zest directly into it. Wish I would have remembered and zested the blood oranges. Not for the color, they're still orange on the outside. Just because they've gone to waste now. I needed orange zest, and I had oranges that I was going to use up. Okay. Orange zest in. The zest has more of the orange flavor. I think we're going to lose our red color a little bit as we cook this as well. So we'll see how rouge it is when it actually comes out the other end. The orange zest has more of the orange flavor because that is where the orange oil lives in the whole orange. Whereas the juice has more of the acid. So in like a lemon or a lime, you zest it for the flavor, you juice it for the acidity. Which again, it's a shame I forgot about that for the blood orange, because we could have had the blood orange zest in there as well. And I might end up adding just a tiny dab of red color to ensure that this comes out red. In fact, I'm going to add that now. No, I'm going to keep it handy. I'm going to keep it handy just in case I need it. But I'm not going to add it until I believe that this has, in fact, lost its redness, which at the moment looks pretty red. And we need another pan. We're moving you to the back for the sauce. We're bringing this pan to the front because we are now officially at the stage of thinking about our fish and asparagus. Although the sauce needs to be paid attention to, so I can't get too distracted. I folded the paper into my butter. There we go. Oh, there's an ad. Okay. So while our sauce is simmering and losing volume, and our butter is melting on low, let me bring you guys back over here. Put thing away, put thing away. Put away, keep the butter out. turned the risotto off because I think it's thickened up and I don't want to scorch it. So we're at the stage of getting the fish out. I'm going to wait for the ad to catch up, just so everyone can be involved. Pour myself a glass of water. So, here's our fish. It should. Ooh. Nice fish. It's so refreshing to not be working with a piece of fish that is sold because it's got to be used today or you're going to poison yourself or something, some nonsense. It's actually already pretty dry. I was going to pat dry the surface, especially the skin side, but it's honestly not very wet. I'll still do that. But there's not much coming off on the paper, so ensuring that the skin is dry will help the skin crisp up when we get to the cooking part. Any moisture on your meat in general fights against developing crispness. But we're going for real simple on this fish. I'm just going to give it salt and pepper, and I wanted to get it out a little bit ahead of when I needed it, just because I wanted it. I'm actually going to turn. I'm actually going to go this, because I think the butter in the pan. What am I saying? I'm losing my train of thought. I think this is going to take longer than that. So we're going to, before that gets too far along that I can't backpedal on it, we are going to instead return to the sauce, ensure the sauce is put together. Trying to do two things at once. Trying to do too many things at once. Trying to do too many things at once. The fish is going to be just salt and peppered. And we're going to rely on the sauce to give us more profound flavors. So, salted and peppered the fish. The asparagus will also take longer than the fish. The asparagus is also going in the pan, though. The sauce is going to take longer than both of them. It's not ready yet. We're going to be incorporating, because this is a beurre, which I believe means butter. One of these recipes calls for half a pound of butter, and the other one calls for 8 tablespoons of butter and a 1/3 cup of heavy cream. So it's a dairy sauce. It's going to be a thick, creamy sauce, which is why I'm a little worried that it might not come out red, because there's going to be a lot more material added to it. But we're supposed to cook off the liquid almost entirely at this stage before I start adding any of the dairy. And we are in a metal pan because I'm supposed to whisk it with a whisk, which we have here, in order to get it to all stick together. But yes, the asparagus is going in the same pan with the fish. We're doing that all in a one pan thing. That part of the dish is going to be fast, and it's going to be one pan thing. Hi, Baddock boy. I could work faster. You've been corrected. Um, well, okay. I mean, honestly, the asparagus could be eaten raw. Hello, Baddock boy. How are you doing? I kind of agree with you that I need to work a little bit faster because I am getting kind of hungry. But you can't really rush French style sauces. They don't rush well. Oftentimes, you need to take even longer than they say to make them. Welcome in. You don't have to be fat. I'm not doing. This isn't a restaurant service. This is not a restaurant service. I'm not trying to meet a deadline. I'm trying to make dinner. Um, but welcome in. Here we are. We've got a piece of red snapper. We've got some asparagus. We have a miso soup risotto that the heat is now off on. It's just keeping warm. And our sauce of shallot, garlic, red wine vinegar, and quite a bit of blood orange juice, and a bit of orange zest. And I think we're going to split the difference and go for a bit of the cream recipe and a bit of the butter recipe. I'm worried that the cream might just curdle up. We're going to take our heat down. But this is where I'm worried about we might lose our color. It looks like we're losing our color. So I will be using a little dab of our red dye. This is why a beurre blanc is blanc, because it's much harder to keep the red coming through. We're going to end up with a pink after I add the color to it. And we're setting the spatula aside and moving over to the whisk. And we're going to cut a few more pats of butter because we're going to add some butter to this. I am going for 4 to start with, which is quite a lot, but it's way less than the half pound that the original recipe calls for. It's already coming back to pink, actually. Sort of a flesh tone. Sort of a skin tone Caucasian sauce. So normally in a French kitchen, you would not be making the meat and the vegetable and the sauce at the same time. You would have a saucier doing the sauce, and that's all they're doing. And then you would have somebody else preparing the risotto, and you'd have somebody else preparing the vegetable, and you'd have somebody else just prepping ingredients to hand along. Um, gonna go get my spatula back. So we're supposed to add it a bit at a time, I think, so that we don't end up with a pool of butter. That then I have a hard time getting into the liquid. The fish should take just a couple. That's not true. I'm sorry, but that's just not true. Dyes are definitely used in kitchens, professional kitchens. It takes the butter pretty well. Why would I dye my own food? Because I want this to come out nice and red. And when I added, now maybe I jumped the gun a little bit, but when I added the cream, the already sort of muted red of the blood orange and red wine really went to a pinkish brown or a brownish pink. So just a couple drops of red to sort of pull it back. Doesn't bother me. I'm the one eating it. Doesn't bother me. Honestly, it's for the, as they say, for the Instagram. It's for the pictures, the glamour shots that I take at the end of these. Because you'll notice that I'm cooking live on the internet before you, a viewer. So I'm doing it for you, the viewer. If it had actually just gone brown, I probably would have left it. But the fact that it naturally turned that weird Caucasian flesh tone was kind of off-putting. I've served food like that before, where it took kind of an off-putting color, and you know what? It doesn't look good on camera. It looks pretty bad usually. And I don't have any beet juice on hand to color this with beet juice, which is what I would use if I had natural dyes available, because that'll give you. We did that once. We made a beet soup. We made borscht, but we made cold borscht, and it was bubblegum pink with no artificial dyes, just because of the beets. Maybe I should get some beet. Maybe I should get some beet juice just to have it on hand. It's way more effective at dyeing things than the little droppers there. Okay, let's test this for consistency with our spoon. But I don't have any beet juice on hand, and I didn't like the way it looked, so I added some red to it. We have good consistency. We're coating the back of our spoon. Give it a taste. Oh, ooh, weird. Weird. Definitely, well, I mean, healthier. What is this? This is FD&C red number 40, which we can look up what FD&C red number 40 is. FD&C red 40 is called Allura Red, and it is a petroleum product. So yes, I would agree. I would agree with the statement that beet juice is healthier than a petroleum derivative. Cannot argue with you there. But I don't have any beet juice on hand. And I, as usual, only kind of half planned this out before I started. So the beurre rouge, I guess is what we've called it, was only partially planned out in advance. And also, I kind of made it up because I had no idea if the red would persist or if it would go brown. I know that red wines tend to go brown when you cook them, but I was hopeful that the red from the blood orange would cut through a little bit better. It didn't, so we'll keep that in mind for the future. This pan now needs to be rewarmed because I turned it off. That pan needs to be kept very low just because I don't want that to set up or split. And that means we are in the final leg where we're going to cook the fish, cook the asparagus, plate everything. Bob's your uncle. We should select a plate, and I think that we are going to go with a white plate today because we have a number of fine colors. It doesn't annoy me. I love talking to people about this kind of stuff. Have at it. I think, now, we just looked at Allura Red, FD&C Red, which is the color I just put in there, is a petroleum derivative. So it is a synthetic chemical derived from mineral source. But it is generally accepted to be safe for consumption in small doses. Is it ideal? No, certainly not. I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that FD&C red number 40 is a healthy part of a balanced diet. If anything, you should minimize it as much as possible. Oh, that's a good point. That spatula, that pan is barely on, but good point. Is literally on as low as it can be on, and it wants a cover. Does this one fit? No. I don't want the sauce drying out. So we're going to put a lid on that guy as well. Good point. Good shout. Get this guy hot enough to start our fish. Put the fish in there. Put the asparagus in next to it. We're going to go with the square. We have a choice. Okay, we have a choice. Hi, I'm down here. Between this plate, which is the opposite of what I said, this is a black plate, this black plate, or this white plate. I'm not sure where our colors will pop better. Because our risotto is kind of a tan, so we definitely don't want to use the tan plate. So that one's out. And I think the risotto will show up better against the black, but I don't know that the risotto needs to show up better. It's not really the star of our show here. Opinions from you guys, the peanut gallery. I can make a poll. Well, this isn't chicken. This is fish. This here. I mean, look. Admittedly, it looks a lot like chicken on this side. If we flip it over, it's clearly fish. Well, I'm thinking the sauce is probably going to be the most striking thing. So let's. Oop. And I guess we're going with a brown butter because I just browned my butter. I just browned my butter, but we're gonna put that guy in the pan. It's red snapper. Red snapper does have a color that is very similar to chicken. I was thinking the black because it would cause the colors to pop out more. But here, I've opened the lid on our sauce. Hard to compare because it casts a partial shadow. New poll. Plate. Black. White. Do. Okay. So because of my not paying attention, we've ended up with a brown butter. I was going to take the white plate, but then I saw the black plate, and it made me think, whoa, Twitch, what the hell are you doing? It made me think maybe the black plate would work. Cybertrans, hi! That looks delicious. You're missing out on all the things, because there's lids on them, because they're staying warm. I think I need a stronger fire on the fish. It's on medium. And we're already kind of scorching our butter a little bit. I'll probably turn it up a little bit when I flip it for the skin side. Gonna use the stream to relax and calm down. Well, I can show you this one. We have made what I am calling beurre rouge, which is a red beurre blanc that is going to be the sauce upon our plate. And behind it, over here, we have made a miso soup risotto, which was a completely me just grabbing stuff and assembling, and it came out pretty good, pretty interesting looking. So that one's all creative, and then the main piece of meat we have going on there is a red snapper, and then we have some very nice winter asparagus, which I am going to be putting in this pan with the snapper after I flip it. Because as mentioned, the asparagus does not take very much time at all. So actually, you've come in time for the exciting conclusion to everything. I mean, not literally the exciting conclusion, but we just have to cook a few things. But we're past all the boring stirring of various dishes. Oh, damn! That skin contracted immediately. Oh well. 1 point to Batica Boy. Our vote is currently tied on the plates. That fish is going to be awkward because now the skin has... Well, I'll show you what it's done. It's formed an arch in a really awkward way. And it's because it wasn't quite done enough before I flipped it. So I guess we're going to run it back this way a little bit to see if I can't get the flesh side to contract just a little bit. It's been a while since I did that with a fish, although, in my defense, this is the first time I've ever cooked red snapper. Because I don't buy red snapper, ever. Black plate wins, officially. We actually had votes. Wow, we actually had votes. We hardly ever have votes. Well, I'm gonna cheat and press down on it. Hello, Chef Samurai Rick. Hi, welcome, welcome. I am in the process of ruining a piece of fish. And Ryuya. Hi. Welcome, welcome. People are come out of the woodwork. Welcome, welcome. You are in time for the exciting part. I'm midway through ruining this piece of fish, and we need to... Come on, asparaguses. You're not that dumb. And now you have ads. Come on. There you go. God, these are hard to turn. I should have used a larger, flatter pan for this. You're back from the ads. Well, the weird shape of our fish, I'm actually going to use to our advantage, and we're going to do one of those service things where I've got the fish on top of the asparagus. But hi, welcome, welcome, everyone. We are trying to get a semi-even cook on these asparaguses without overcooking them. And they just don't quite fit in this pan. I used too small of a pan. We're slightly crowded. I should have used a larger, flatter pan. Our skin is blistering. I don't think we're burning. I think we're blistering a little bit. I was seeing that too recently, Ryu, although I saw it switch back. I personally hate the change where it shows you the number of ads instead of the total time. Total time is way more useful. I think that piece of fish is just about done. We can test it. Yeah, but I noticed that too, but only sometimes. It's weird. I never probe fish. That fish is done. Kids, that fish is done. We will let it rest a little bit on the side. And let the asparaguses have a little bit more room. Yeah. So, do we do that weird chef thing where all the food is stacked up and have the risotto, and then the asparagus, and then the fish, and then the sauce? Or do we have the risotto on the side, have the asparagus and the fish over the top of it, and then the sauce? Or do we put the sauce on the plate and plunk our fish on top of it? There's lots of ways to assemble this. I actually really like how the fish came out. I was thinking the sauce can cover up some hurt of the fish, but I actually quite like the way the top of the fish looks. So I'm just going to turn that heat off. That asparagus is going to be crunchy. Asparagus is going to be slightly crunchy. Right, and the chefy thing to do is to put the sauce on the plate in like a schmear and then put your stuff on top of it. And for pictures, it looks nice, but for eating, I don't super love it. And I kind of split the difference with things around here, where I sometimes go for looks, like with our food dye. We had a whole discussion about that just a minute ago. And sometimes I go for convenience. We have settled on the black plate. Just gonna move the asparagus off of the hot coil. Okay. Since the fish and the risotto are almost the same color, I don't want two top level things both being that same kind of tan color. So I'm going to put some sauce on top of the fish. And that's the reasoning why I'm going to put some sauce on top of the fish. This did exactly what I hoped it would do, and it finished thickening in the back corner. So it is sturdy. This is our miso soup risotto. So we used dashi as the broth. And then during the last dose of broth, I added red miso and scallions to it, stirred it through. And I did mention that I was going to maybe add a sprinkling of fresh scallion on the top, and we are doing that because it's a little. The ones that got mixed in are a little bit pallid, although we don't need much. So we're just going to take a tip of one of these guys. Just to freshen up the look of the top of it. This would be chives in an Italian risotto, I believe. How am I this evening? I'm better than I was earlier. I've had a very stressful last week and into the weekend. But this always cheers me up. You guys always cheer me up. Welcome, new people who haven't been here. Always excited to see new faces. Let's go dang. Oop. You've seen me before. Well, Twitch says you're new because it pops up with a first time chatter. So if you have seen me before, then you were a lurker, which I appreciate. Oh, and somebody's obviously followed and gotten one of my favorite emotes, the little noms. So do we want to? I think we want to do it like that. And then dollop a little bit of sauce. Oh, you have another face somewhere. Let's see. Has our sauce split? Just a little bit. So let me. With just the residual heat on the pan, or on the burner, and a vigorous whisk, bring it back together. So the sauce is not a stable sauce. In the time it was sitting back in the back there, it split a little bit, but it was easy to bring back together with just a very gentle heat. Well, before I put the sauce on, I could we can move stuff around. we can move stuff around. If I take this guy off, what if I put him there? There's always going to be some blank space. There's no way I'm going to fill the entire plate. Oh, actually, speaking of, some salt for our asparagus. Once I sauce it, we can't move it around. So that's going to be our end point. Like so, and then if I'd saved a little bit of that blood orange, we could have had a blood orange garnish right in the middle. The sauce will help fill it in a little bit. Oh, see, I wasn't going to sauce the rice at all, because the rice is already flavorful. I was going to sauce just the fish. This is the most discussion we've had around plating ever. Normally, I just slap stuff on a plate and call it good. Normally, I also don't have a plate with multiple items that I have to balance. I more often will make a single dish. So I was going to do like a slice across the fish with the sauce, like there, but saucy. While we're thinking about that, and then we can have an orange slice garnish in the center. Okay, I am just going to go for it. Before I have to end up rebuilding my sauce again. Our sauce is pretty thick, so we're probably not going to end up with a nice drizzle. I'm doing both. I'm doing both. I'm calling it both. It's too late to stop me. The discussion was taking too long, and it's my fault. Like so. There you go. It will look a lot better from the angle that I actually take the photo from. You're looking at it directly above, which is never the good angle for it. Let's add the obligatory sprig of parsley. Ding. Waste of good parsley. I might have overdone it with the blood color. We will see when it comes in my actual glamour shots. Remember, I have a better camera. We're going there now. If you want to see the shots we take in the other room here, I got a bunch of stuff on my camera station today. I have a Discord where I post pictures, and I will give you the link in just a sec. Try a couple different angles on this guy. It looks a lot better over here. It's much very bright red. Come on. This camera is slightly slower than my old one, but it takes better pictures. So here, let me grab, boop. We have a very low activity Discord, but you can pop in to see pictures of my foods. I'll post them on my Instagram, which is the same name here, with my same logo from here. Yeah. But that's all the glamour stuff. I don't make these just to be glamorous, as much as sometimes it seems like it. I make these to eat. So let's dive in, give it a taste, and talk about what we've got. We're going to start with the one I've already tasted. It might be just a shade over from having sat in the back like that. You should serve a risotto immediately when it's done. It tastes exactly like a miso soup, but it's got the thick creaminess of a risotto. And I actually really like the fresh green onion on the top. It gives a nice little contrasting flavor and texture compared to the creamy, soft risotto. I will definitely be making this again. It was easy. I'll probably do it the cheater way next time, where you just dump all the liquid in and let it simmer itself away. You can also make risotto in the slow cooker, if you've ever wanted to make a lot of risotto with no effort. But that's a very good combination. The rice, it's like if miso soup met congee, met risotto. It's kind of all three of them. It's good. I really like this. I will definitely keep that one in my back pocket. The asparagus is going to taste like asparagus, but let's taste the fish with let's taste the fish on its own first. Take a little piece off the front here. I think I did overcook the fish slightly. It's nice and pure white on the inside. I swear I've had red snapper before. I know I don't buy it, so I rarely have it. I swear I've eaten it before, but it doesn't strike me as super familiar. I don't cut it with a knife. Let it flake apart. I'm trying to get a piece that didn't have any sauce on it, really, for just taste itself. All we did was salt, pepper, and fry it in some butter. I think you're right, Badikapoy, about the temperature, but the pan should have been quite a bit hotter from the very get-go before I put the fish in so that it could cook through the top part and then just flip it to crisp up the skin. I cooked it the way I normally cook salmon, which is more forgiving. This is a low-fat white fish, which I don't cook nearly as often. But we need to taste it with the sauce. Sauce that it's a little bit everywhere. The sauce itself is very interesting, like on its own. It's like a savory creamsicle. It's orange and cream, but it's not sweet orange and cream. It's savory orange and cream, which is strange. Which I'm not going to lie, is a bit strange. I don't hate it, but I am slightly confused by it. I think it actually goes well with a mild thing like this white fish. I don't know that I'll go out of my way for it. I'll keep it in mind. I think next time we'll just make a standard beurre blanc instead of this weird citrus beurre rouge. It doesn't not go. We're not having. I'm not going to scrape it off, and I am probably going to use it to mop up the sauce that's on the plate. So in that aspect, it's doing what sauce should be doing. It's creamy and flavorful, but I wish it had a little more punch, a little more bite. I think that's what it's missing. I'm not sure where to take it though. Adding a bunch more acid would cause it to curdle because it's very creamy sauce. So we'd end up with something completely different. I'm not sure where to take that one. And finally, let's have some of this asparagus with the sauce, since I know what asparagus tastes like. Mmm. Oh, the sauce goes much better with the asparagus than it does with the fish. Oh, that's surprising, actually. I think it's because the asparagus has more of a fresh vegetable flavor to it to begin with. So the sort of mellow creaminess of the sauce really complements that. Okay, well, there you go. It should have been just on the asparagus, and then the fish should have been naked next to it. Interesting. Not what I was expecting. And given that, I think we should season our fish a little bit more, since it's not, since it wouldn't be getting sauced up like this, or we'd make a separate sauce for it. No, the citrus comes through stronger paired with the asparagus as well. Let me taste this sauce by itself, just completely by itself. Okay, by itself, you can taste the orange. You can taste the acidity. by itself, it tastes pretty good. I think it's too mild for a sauce for something that's already mild. I think that's the only issue I'm running into, really. I'm gonna snooze that ad. It also wants to split. It really wants to split. Which we've done that. We've done that before. Had issues with our French sauces around here. Mmm. Well, I guess that's all the elements. The orange is just there for decoration. I'm going to get more of the sauce to use on the asparagus. And I'm going to say that the most successful element of this plate was this rice back here. Mmm. 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 It's real good. The rice is of the 4 things I made, the rice was the one I had least planned out, and it is easily the best one. So take that what you will. Maybe I need to do less planning overall. Although I've done that before too, where I just come in with nothing, no plan, and I end up with something that's tasty, but that takes like 20 minutes. Which doesn't make for a very good show. I should do those on YouTube. I have a YouTube that is just archives of this stream, so it's terrible watching. I can't believe anyone tunes into it at all, but some people do. It's weird. Anyways, I guess that's where we wrap today, because I want to eat this before it gets cold, and I have a mess to clean up back there and over there. So let's find someone to raid off to. Now that I've made the announcement that we're wrapping up, people will start scattering to the winds. But let's see who I can raid off to. Let's see who's on right now. I'm going to take us over to Lee Shack again. We've done that a couple times. Have I thought of doing a fish curry? I have done a fish curry. I don't know that I did it on the show, but I have done a fish curry in the past. I quite like that. Yeah, I think it works with a firm white fish, which the red snapper could qualify. But I think of more like a haddock or a cod, something where you can get like a big chunk. Yeah, so bring my face up. Bring my face up. So, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. We had a whole bunch of new faces in today. I don't know what we are going to work on next. I do like walleye. That might work. That's a good fish. I don't know what we're gonna do next. I'm trying to clear out space in the freezer, so it's gonna be probably something from here. I want to experiment with hash browns in the waffle iron at some point, so that is in the horizon. Otherwise, if you haven't heard, I'm applying for jobs, so that's going to take up a whole bunch of my time. So stay tuned. Woo. See you. Bye.